What's going on, guys? I am not in my office. Obviously, you can see that. I can't go to the studio this week. I am on doggy duty for Anthony. So, as you can see, the cage behind me. So everything's got to be done here, which I apologize. I know the office seems better. The studio seems a little bit more professional, but this is a one-off. So I apologize for you guys. Hopefully, you guys can hear me well. Hopefully, the visuals are not throwing you off and you're not snooping around my fucking kitchen looking for anything. But another interesting card last week, right? I go over a couple things, couple news and notes, some spring cleaning. Then we got a big, I wouldn't say a big card. I'd say a good card on paper, but limited fights, right? We got limited fights, which is kind of strange. You don't usually see 10, 11 fights on the card. Even with drop-offs, usually on a card like this, they try to fill them in. But I guess because of the pay-per-view model's kind of gone, it's more of it's Paramount now. It's streaming. They're not so worried about kind of stuffing the card up. But we're seeing a trend. Right, guys, we're seeing this trend now of the cards that we're not expecting to be good are really good, and the cards that we're expecting to be good and we're anticipating to be really good aren't really good. That's been the trend of 2026. This was a really fun card. Like, it was a really, really fun card. If you guys followed the Moicano breakdown, obviously, you know, we hit that pretty much on the head from the analysis down when I was talking about how good of he checks leg kicks and how he's going to be looking for his entries. You know, in that way, it's kind of panned out. I didn't expect him to get it in the second round or that easy, but I did expect him, you know, from third round or beyond. Tabitha Ritchie, me and Dayton. Obviously, Dayton's behind the sticks right now. He's crying in his Cheerios right now, as am I. I thought that Tabitha Ritchie was going to win that fight, just predicated off athleticism and speed. It did not happen. Dayton, come on in. Tell me what you thought about the about your dog pick. First dog pick that you lost this year, pal.
Yeah, athleticism and speed. You got that one right on the head there. That's exactly why I was going for her. Yep. No, Tabitha Ritchie, she looked good going in. Definitely wasn't the right pick, and maybe we'll get back on the right track here this week.
I think it came down to what I said in the breakdown when I said my problem with her, sometimes she overcommits, right? And you don't want to overcommit with somebody like Jandiroba, because then you're going into her grasp. You're going to where she wants to take you. And she has no choice at that point because she is shorter. She does have a minimal reach advantage, you know, and stuff like that. So you got to kind of enter that fray to get in. But she just, I mean, listen, she had good takedown defense in the fight for the most part, but after a while, Jandiroba was just going to get to you. So we faulted on that. But the most important pick was obviously the main event. It's always how you finish. The one thing I do want to go over, because this is coming off the back 2 weeks in a row with two very dangerous situations. And a lot of misinformation out there. And the one thing I won't do is I won't sit back and let misinformation get out. Like, that's one thing I feel like I'm responsible to nip in the bud and take care of. The whole thing with the Macy Barber thing back in the day, we discussed it. We're not going to stay on it too long, but people were wondering why it wasn't a submission. It should have been a submission and not a knockout. We went over that. We understand, and you know the rule sets as far as once a fighter is rendered unconscious, that's where it ends. All the extra activity after that doesn't really mean much. You know what I mean? You could bicycle kick somebody after they're submitted. It doesn't mean it counts as as a disqualification. But this fight was a lot more severe as far as one not being a proud day for the mixed martial arts community. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I don't think people understand how severe of a situation Melissa Gatto was put into. She was rendered unconscious. Okay. I mean, this girl was kicked in the throat, knocked out cold, should have been a DQ right out of the gate. And what they did was they took a point, they let her rejuvenate, and they started the fight again. Now, why do I have such a big problem with that? The reason why I got a big problem with that isn't because I picked Gatto and I was like, all right, give it a win off at the squad. It wasn't because of that. It was because what do we talk about all the time when a fighter's coming off a knockout, right? If somebody gets knocked out and they're coming back now to fight, what is the first thing we look at? The time frame they came back, right? We're like, all right, well, 6 weeks, 9 weeks really isn't enough time. Like, I don't know, how are they going to react to this? So when we look at that, and that's a big factor that we play into this whole scenario when fighters are coming off losses. How did they lose? Was it a flash knockdown? Was it a referee stoppage? Were they rendered unconscious? Like, how decision? How did they lose? If it was a massive knockout, that's one thing that we look at. Is he recovered or is she recovered yet? did she have enough time to recover before she got back into training camp? So if we're going to look at it like that, to weeks to months for recovery, how can you allow a fighter to be rendered unconscious, and instead of giving her 6 months, you're giving her 6 minutes to come back and fight? I don't think people understand how dangerous of a situation that was. And for the people that I saw that were out there saying it's a Brazilian fake job, it was fake, she faked it, she got kicked in the throat, she didn't get kicked in the head. This is where anatomy physiology comes in. This is where these people should probably try to simmer down and not talk so much, because you can be put into a catatonic state much deeper being kicked in the throat, because your carotid artery is there and you got nerves there that if you get hit there, the brute trauma will cause your blood pressure to dip at astronomical levels. And when your blood pressure dips like that, then you're going out. Okay, so you're kind of short-circuiting in your brain. And then when you wake up and the oxygen starts flowing back and your blood pressure starts coming back, your brain needs to reboot. Okay, so we have a parallel sport in boxing where we can learn from. We can learn from the Tommy Hearnses of the world, the Evander Holyfields of the world, the Mike Tysons of the world, these guys that talk with major speech impediments because they have pugilistic syndrome. We should be learning from that. When you put these guys in a room, it actually sounds like they're from a different state. They all have like the same pugilistic accent. We should be learning from that, but we're not. And that was a very dangerous situation to put her in, because when your oxygen in your brain is cut off for that shit and you short circuit, your axon shut you down, and then they start firing up again, you were so tender for the taking there that something really bad could have happened. Where how many times are you going to get rendered unconscious before the oxygen just like is limited, like to a point where your brain doesn't come and reboot fully back, and now you have neurological issues? So very dangerous situation that they put Melissa Gatto in. I didn't like that. I was actually very uncomfortable that they restarted that fight. I've never seen anything like that. I don't know if you guys have, but I've never seen anything like that where they would have a person that was knocked out like that, and then they gave her a couple minutes to recover, took a point, and asked her to go back in there and fight another couple rounds. Like, very dangerous situation. Then the last thing I'm going to say on this is the referees need to be really trained in trauma response, because, the more I watched it, I watched that over. I watched Macy Barber's over because I really wanted to get a grasp on what I was going to say. You don't go down to a fighter when they're knocked out and start rubbing their arm and pampering them. The first thing you got to do is you got to check their pulse. You got to see where their heart rate is, where their blood pressure is. You got to check their eyes. Like, there's a lot of things that these guys need to overhaul in this commission, from the judging down to the referee. Like, this needs a complete overhaul, or something very bad's going to happen. Like, something very, very bad's going to happen. So that's my rant on that. Hopefully they fix it soon, because 2 weeks in a row, we're very close for comfort. Too close for comfort. I mean, 2 weeks in a row. We haven't seen something like that in quite some time. So I think they need to take a clear look at that, and they need to fix it. And they need to put, steps in place to make sure this doesn't happen, and definitive laws in place, and definitive rules in place that there is no going back on. So scary stuff. That was definitely scary stuff. Uncomfortable for me to watch. But we move on to UFC 327. A lot of good fights on this card. We're going to break down the main event, the co-main event, and then obviously 2 fights that I think are very intriguing about it. If you guys want the rest of my content, go to the madlabmma.com. We are starting the fantasy league this week coming up. We're running it for 9 weeks. You get a trophy, your name engraved in it, your name on the wall of fame. If we get a really good turnout, will be cash money and swag. So we will be starting that this week. You have to be a member to be in. So go to the madlabmma.com. But we have Jiri Prochazka versus Carlos Ulberg for the light heavyweight strap. You got -115 for Jiri Prochazka, and you got +105 for Carlos Ulberg. Excuse me. When I look at this fight in a whole, it's very hard for me to pull I'm going to pick up the microphone here. Pull up the technical dynamic out of it, right? Because I'm a very technical guy. I'm a very detail-oriented guy. I like the details, right? So when I watch Jiri Prochazka fight, I'm never really super impressed with him. Never was. I'm still not super impressed with him. I'm very impressed with the inner demon that he has, that he will continue to move forward, that he can take a shot. He doesn't quit. He will fight until he's out like a light. I like his morality, as far as how he got so emotional when one of his oppositions won, and he does have a warrior spirit. I don't buy into the whole acting thing that he's a samurai, and maybe you guys do. I don't. And when it comes from a technical standpoint, like he's really not that technical. He's very hittable. If you look at his strikes to his getting hit, his hit to getting hit, his hitting to getting hit, they're even. I mean, he it's like 5.6 and 5.4 a minute. Like he gets hit as much as he hits. So from a technical standpoint, he could be chewed alive. He does not check leg kicks. He's very chaotic with his striking. He's got all these odd, bolstering movements that have really no rhyme or reason behind them. But what he does bring into the cage is he brings a presence. He brings a presence about him. He brings it's almost like back in the day, Mike Tyson used to bring a little bit of a presence about him. He used to bring that aura into the ring where sometimes he would have you beat before you even stepped into the ring. He would come in real basic, with that towel cut in the middle with the thing on, not saying nothing. Everything on was black, nothing flashy. And, give you that stare, very quiet. But then once in a while, he would have you beat before he had you beat. And the same thing with Jiri. He has that kind of aura. He's got like that very mysterious mystique about him where sometimes he can make you wonder, like, what is he going to do? How is he going to approach this? And then when he starts getting all herky jerky and he starts throwing these crazy things, that's when you kind of be put on notice. And you're like, well, listen, I did this division. Everybody's athletic. Everybody's powerful. You got to mind your P's and Q's. But as far as a technical fighter, he's not. Like, he's not a good technical fighter. I'm sorry, but he's not. I said this about Jamal Hill. I said this about these guys are going to win fights. They should be here. Jiri Prochazka is very good for the UFC, but he's not a technical fighter. He's a fighter that thrives in chaos. A very small technical chaos, not just all out chaos like this kid yesterday, Timothy McMillan, who literally had not a single ounce of technical ability, was just throwing punches and saying, let's look. But he does have a little bit of tech. So there's like a controlled chaos, I should say. Then the other side of the cage, you got a guy named Carlos Ulberg, who is all technical ability. He's long, he's rangy, he works behind a good jab, he knows how to create space, he knows how to utilize the real estate of the cage, he knows where the warning track is at all time. He picks and chooses his spots very wisely. Now, when you have a fighter like that fights in a very controlled environment, you can tame and control the chaos from never erupting. You're not giving them an opportunity. You're not biting down on the bait. What happens is when somebody comes in like a Jiri and he's like jumping up and down and he's looking to just throw these crazy hands and stuff, you kind of not get startled, but you're like, all right, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. And you just start throwing punches. But if you have that technical demeanor about you where you're like, no, that's not the way this is going to work. You're going to fight at my speed. You're going to fight at my pace. And I'm going to make you figure out how you're going to get in on me. I'm not going to allow you to come in and throw these spinning back fists and all this crazy shit on me just because. And then I'm going to bite into it and I'm going to start throwing heavy hands and I'm going to start throwing things that have nothing tied behind them. I'm going to keep you at range for as long as I can. I'm going to use the real estate of the cage. I'm going to use, my kicks. I'm going to do everything I can to keep you in a point fighting distance from me. And make everything very difficult because, I'm going to put you in a difficult environment for yourself. So you're going to be the one running downhill in essence, but at the end of the day, you're going to be running downhill chasing something you can't catch. And that's the approach that Ulberg has the opportunity to bring. I don't think this is going to be a super fun fight. If I'm being dead serious, I don't think this is going to be like an all-out action-packed war. Like we saw, when some of these guys just bite down on their mouthpiece, they sit in the center of the cage and they throw hands. I don't see this fight happening like that. I see this fight being kind of a technical pissing match back and forth a little bit where Jiri's going to have his moments, sure, where he's going to have that big dynamic moment where he's, whoa, everyone's, holy shit, you see that? Maybe hit him with an elbow or put him in on skates for a minute. And then for the most part, it's going to be Ulberg, I think, picking and choosing his spots, letting him, playing Matador a little bit in there. And if something presents himself, then Ulberg's going to capitalize on that. The one issue I do have a little bit with Ulberg here, though, is, I've never really seen him take a shot. Like I mean, I've seen him take a shot, but I've never seen him in a situation where he was taking like numerous shots. Like I've seen Jiri take shots. We've seen Jiri almost dead to fucking rights numerous times and then come back in these chaotic situations. And we're like, holy shit, dude. Like he wasn't the better fighter, but he was the better fighter. Like what happens if Ulberg does get baited into one of those situations? What happens if in the fourth and fifth round, this guy, it goes that far and it is a little bit, pacey at that point, and his fucking lungs are filled up with fire and sand, and he could barely breathe, and he's got to dig down deep now. He doesn't have the legs to really move around as much as he did in the middle. He's going to have to like stay there a little bit and play a little bit of a a war game with him. What happens then if he starts getting hit with shots? Is he going to fold? We've really never seen Ulberg in that situation, so we don't know. So if this thing goes deep into the fight, and you're telling me, well, this is the way it's going to boil down. Both of these guys are going to be a little gassed. Both of these guys are going to be nicked up, and it's going to be a battle of attrition going down the stretch. I'm going Jiri. I'm taking the guy that's got the battle of attrition. I'm taking him, the guy who's proven it. Ulberg hasn't really proven that to me yet, but he has proven to me that he's the far better fighter. He's the far better technical fighter. And if he minds his P's and Q's and he fights technical and he keeps him in range and he just kind of tries to keep Jiri honest, you're not going to have to use so much energy. You're going to allow him to kind of walk onto your shots. That's what timing is about. So I'm going to go Ulberg here. I'm going to say Ulberg gets it done. I'd like to say he gets it done inside the distance. I just don't know how much of a pace he's willing to take a chance with putting on with somebody like Jiri, who wants that kind of a pace. I'm not looking this to be a super action-packed fight. I'll tell you that now. I think there's an opportunity for both men to finish this fight, but I think the approach to this is going to be on Ulberg to see who wins or loses this fight. So give me Ulberg here. I'm not going to pick a method. I'll say fourth or fifth round, or I'll say late round. I'll say round 5 or decision. I'll pick him there, but I do like Ulberg here. I think he's going to stay technical. And like I said, I think Jiri's a little bit too hittable. So give me the dog here. And new, actually, that would be. All right, then we move down to the co-main event, which is an interesting one, right? We got Murzakanov -200, and we got Paulo Costa +170. Fan of Murzakanov. Like everything he does. I think he's very technical. I think he hits with a ton of power. I don't think he wastes a lot of movement. That's the key to somebody like Murzakanov. When you pack that much power and you have it, but you still don't utilize it as your forefront. It's very important. Like, it's very, very important, because you got these guys like even Joaquin Buckley back in the day when he came in, right? When he first came in, he was just using, like, people just use power. Alonzo Menafield just using power. And they'll just throw for McMillan, another kid, just trying to utilize power to get you out of there. But when you have big power and you still kind of pull back the trigger a little bit and you say, I'm going to utilize it when I need it, that's a talent. That shows patience. That shows pedigree. You know what I mean? Anybody can just go out there and swing for the fences and know that, like, if I hit you, I'm going to knock you out. But who's disciplined enough to put 40 to 60% behind it until you're ready to do it? And that's something that Murzakanov does. And that's something I do like about him. Paulo Costa, on the other hand, when he was first coming out, the one thing I loved about Paulo Costa was his ability to go to the body. His ability to go to the body was tremendous. Like, he really knew how to dig through combinations really, really well. Everything had power behind it, but it wasn't really. It was functional power. It wasn't blind power. What I mean by blind power is just throwing hands to throw hands. He did really tie things together nicely. He showed that he had a good chin against guys like Romero and stuff like that. But there was a small switch that turned, I think, with him after those wars. I think there was a small switch that turned with him. After you take a certain amount of punishment and damage, you don't get any better. You don't get any more durable. You don't have any more. You don't get more dog in you. You kind of do take a little bit of a situation where you could be in some of these fights and you leave a small part of you inside that cage that night that never returns. Happens in boxing, happens in every sport. And I think there was a very small part of him in some of his fights that he left himself in there a little bit. And it started showing because he started getting dropped. And like guys like Izzy, who's not known for big power, ended up dropping him and stuff like that. And he was buckling a little bit more and getting finished and stuff like that. He wasn't letting his hands go like he once did with that confidence, as far as like just sitting there, dipping his head, tucking his chin, and digging a 3, 4, 5 shot combination to the body, then coming up to the head. Like, we weren't seeing that anymore. And we haven't seen that with him. But it doesn't mean he doesn't have it. It doesn't mean it's not there and he doesn't have it. If he comes out here with the potential to fight like that, his boxing is better. His boxing is better than Murzakanov. I think Murzakanov hits with more power. I obviously think he has momentum on his side. I think he has, more ways to win this fight. But if Paulo Costa comes in with that, refreshed mindset that I'm going to go back to like what people fell in love with me, like they used to like watching my fights, how well I went to the body, how well I did body head, how how the knockouts, the generation of power, and just like that overall imposement that he would bring, then he absolutely can win this fight. He absolutely can win this fight. There's no doubt in my mind that he can win this fight. When you look at Murzakanov and you look at the people he's fought, okay, he beat Alexander Rakic. He beat Brendan Silverio. I'm not impressed with that. Beat Alonzo Mendenfield. Not impressed with that. Beat Dustin Jacoby. I'm impressed with that. Okay. Devin Clark, not impressed with that. Tefon Njoku, not really impressed with that. Shafel, not impressed with that. Like, I'm not impressed with a lot of his wins. Doesn't mean I'm not giving him credit. I think he's a fantastic fighter. I like Murzakanov a lot. But when you go into Costa, you're looking at guys he's fought. He fought Strickland, fought Robert Whitaker, fought Luke Rockhold, fought Marvin Vittori, fought Israel Adesanya, Yoel Romero, Uriah Hall, Johnny Hendricks. This dude fought a lot of tough dudes. And sure, he's on he lost 4 of his last 6. I get it. But look who he's losing to. He's losing to Sean Strickland. He's losing to Robert Whitaker. He's losing to Marvin Vittori. He's losing to Israel Adesanya. These are all title holders or title contenders at one time. 3 title holders, 1 title contender. So this is a situation where Murzakanov is either going to starch him. He's either going to starch him, or we're going to learn a lot about Murzakanov in this fight. That's basically which way this is going to go. This is going to be a situation where Murzakanov is going to come in and either catch him with a shot and put him to sleep, at some time probably in the second round, or this is going to turn out to be a little firefight, and then Murzakanov, and you're going to learn a little bit more about him from a defensive perspective, from a durability perspective, from a tension perspective. If he starts getting hit with shots to the body, and now Paulo Costa is backing him up, or Paulo Costa just isn't going away, and he starts hitting a little bit of a flow state with his boxing, like you'll learn a little bit about him. We did it a lot. We did it with Rebecca and some of these other guys. Like, we were able to see these situations where they were put in a situation. Now you're going to have to fight. Like, now you got someone in front of you that's giving you resistance. You're going to have to fight. You'll learn something about him. So I'm going to go with Murzakanov here. I'm going to pick him here. And I know you guys probably thought I was going to be leaning the other way, the way I was talking about Paulo Costa. But the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm letting you know I'm not touching this fight. Like, this is not a fight that I have a hand on. This is not a fight that I want to play. I would not put -200 on Murzakanov in this spot. If you have to play this fight, I would look for some kind of a prop angle. I don't know if I trust Paulo Costa, at the plus money that he's at. This is a fight I just want to sit back, because I'm going to learn 1 or 2 things in this fight. I'm going to either learn that Paulo Costa is either shot, like that like he gets ran over here, or I'm going to learn how much tension Murzakanov can take and what Paulo Costa has left. So big spot for both guys here. I'm going to go Murzakanov. I'm going to say by 3rd round knockout. But I'd like to see Paulo Costa win the fight. All right, 2 fights that we're going to go over now that I think that are important to hit on the cards that many people won't be talking about. One of them is a personal friend of mine. Well, comes from a camp personal friend. Kevin Holland versus Randy Brown. You have Kevin Holland at +110. Randy Brown is coming back at -130. Now, I have connections with Randy Brown's camp over at Budokan in New York. Really good guys over there. Randy Brown's been very, very loyal to them. And I followed his entire regional circuit. I've called fights for him, on the regional circuit and stuff like that. Just a overall good guy, super talented guy too. Like, I know I may seem biased when I say this, but no, he's a very super, super talented guy. And I've been biased in many situations. I used to train with Danny and Jimmy Miller, and there were plenty of times I picked against them in fights. But Randy Brown is a very talented guy. If you ever saw him in the training room and stuff, you would see what I mean. And obviously you see him in cage, you see him fighting. He's taking on Kevin Holland, who, this is a guy who really, I mean, if you look at, his resume, you wonder sometimes, why is he still in the UFC? And the reason why he's still in the UFC is because if you listen to his resume, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. I mean, he's got more losses like than he has wins, like as of late. You know what I mean? It's always like 2 losses, 2 wins, 1 loss, 1 win, 3 losses, 2 wins. The reason why the UFC keeps him around is because he is a company man. The guy will never say no to a fight. He will never turn down a fight. The guy's about making money. He's going to go in there and he doesn't care if he's rolling off the couch. He's going in there. He's going to fight. And I think every company needs somebody like that. You need somebody like that. You need a guy who's talented, who's fun, who the fans can resonate with, and you know that he's always going to have your back no matter what. Unless by hook or by crook, this guy's injured or he's in the hospital or he had a family death, this guy's going to be there for you and he's going to fight. And he's good enough to put him anywhere on the card. You could put him in a main event spot if you have to. You could put him in a co-main event spot. You could put him on the prelims. You can put him anywhere you want on the card. So you have so much functionality with a guy like that who's always going to be there to save your ass. How do you get rid of a guy like that? You can't. You can't get rid of a guy like that, unless he's good and ready to leave. Or, I mean, it gets to the point where he's just kind of shot to bits. You know what I mean? But that's why he's here. That's why he's here. He was a perfect storm for Dana White. And then you look at a guy like Randy Brown, who he had his trials and tribulations too in the UFC. He was, wins, loss. Sometimes he'll go on a little bit of run. You're like, all right, here comes Randy Brown. Randy Brown's going to make a run now. And then he loses, then he wins 2, then he loses 1, then he wins 2, then he loses 1, wins 1, loses 1. So he hasn't really been able to stabilize. You know what I mean? He hasn't really been able to stabilize enough to really get that call, that big fight call. You know what I mean? He'll be on main cards and stuff like that, but you got to kind of show a little stability, and he hasn't really been able to do that. But this is a fight where I think a lot of people might be projecting this the wrong way. Like they may be looking at this, well, if this stays on the feet, like Kevin Holland is going to chew him up because that's what he usually does. Kevin Holland's a guy who, like, your path to victory there is to take him down. He doesn't have takedown defense. Yeah, sure, he slip around the ground. He can catch you with a submission and stuff like that. His takedown defense got a little bit better, but he's not ultimately a guy that you're not going to try if you're in there with him. Like, if you're in there with him, why would you fight a long, rangy, dynamic striker when you can, chances are, taking him down, and if you get on top of him, he's going to have problems getting up? Like, that should be a lot of people's past. But the fact of the matter is Randy Brown is also a very long, rangy, talented striker, which Kevin Holland doesn't face all that often. You know what I mean? He doesn't fight a guy that's kind of his equal when it comes to range and distance and management and stuff like that. And Randy Brown is that guy. Randy Brown works behind a really good jab. Randy Brown throws really good kicks. Randy Brown, has big power. Randy Brown's not afraid to walk you down. There's a lot of things that Randy Brown does that, Kevin Holland likes to do and doesn't like being done to him. So that's where this fight to me is going to be won and lost. It's going to be won and lost. Like, who's going to back who up? Who's going to back who up? Both of these guys can fight on their back foot because they're long and they're rangy, and they both understand how to counter. But to me, the winner of this fight is going to be who's the one who's going to be kind of owning the real estate of the center of the cage, and he's going to be the one kind of walking you down. And I think Randy Brown's just a little bit more he's a little bit more capable of doing that, just for the mere fact that Holland is more of a counter striker. He is more back and forth on his feet, looking to strike as you're coming in and stuff like that, where Randy Brown will hunt you down. He will walk you down and find his range with his jab and try to put it on you. And he gets over aggressive sometimes. He will get aggressive. His grappling game isn't bad either. I wouldn't be completely shocked if he tries to take this fight to the ground. Now, it's not his overall game plan to do things like that. He doesn't do it often. But I wouldn't be shocked if he attempts it, if it's arsenal to try to switch things up a little bit. I think this is a good fight. I think this is another fight that I don't know how fun it's going to be when you got two really technical, long strikers that both understand range. Like, it's really who's going to make the chess move first. And I think it's going to be Randy Brown. I think Randy Brown gets this one done. I'm going to say Randy Brown knocks him out. So I'm going to go Randy Brown by knockout. And like I said, you're not wrong either way. If you guys think Kevin Holland's going to win, I can make an argument for you there. I just like the aggression of Randy Brown more than Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland's going to wait for you to come when Kevin Holland's going to go to you. So give me the more aggressive fighter. I'm going to take Randy Brown here. All right, the next one that I'm super, super excited about, so that's not Deon Barboza. You got Deon Barboza's name there. It's Tatiana Suarez, minus 150. Loopy Godinez is plus 130. I there's something that and I'm a big Loopy guy. You guys know that. I'm a big Loopy guy. There's something that's telling me that this is a buy low spot for Tatiana. And I know it's crazy for me to say that because when I first saw this fight and when I first, when Tatiana, fought the last time, I was like, I think people are really overvaluing her. Hold on, guys. I just want to open this up. I think people are overvaluing her a little bit. And when she fought Wiley Zhang, like I could not believe how many people took her over Wiley. And I was like, do they really have they watched film on Wiley and seen how well-rounded and how good of a functional wrestler she is and how good of a striker she is and how bricked up she is? And like, have they not watched this film? And I was shocked. I was literally shocked that people, picked her over her. A girl who just really is a very high pedigree functional wrestler. But outside of that, like if you can match that or you can play the counter wrestling game, like you can have her. You could have your way with her. And that's what happened. She comes back, she fights Lemos, and she wins that fight. There you go, Tatiana Suarez. And now she takes on Loopy Godinez, somebody who's kind of like her equal, right? 2-fight win streak, beat Jessica Andrade, beat Julia Palastri, lost to Mackenzie Dern, lost to Verna Jandiroba. There's no shame in either of those losses. And here's the thing now. This is what I want you guys to understand. Like, Loopy is a good striker. Loopy does have good striking. She does have in and out movement. I think Loopy is the better striker for sure in this fight. But when you're looking at her like safety valves in her fights, this girl will take you down. She will get on top and she will get top control on you. That's her safety valves. She will strike until she's uncomfortable or she will strike her way in. And if she feels like she really, really has an advantage there, she will stay there. She will stay there. But majority of the time, she's going to look to ground you. She wants to try to take you down. She gets on top, and there's that safety. That's why I always like rostering her. Excuse me, in DraftKings. The 2 fights that she lost, look at the matchups. She lost to Mackenzie Dern, a high pedigree grappler. She lost to Verna Jandiroba, a high pedigree grappler, because they took that game away from her. They took that functional ability away from her and basically just said, now you're a striker. Now that's who you are. Now you're a striker. We could pressure you. We have no issues with coming after you and try to take you down. You're going to be on the counter when it's wrestling time. You're going to be on the counter, not us. You're going to be on the counter. So that makes her a striker at that point, a striker that is defensively wrestling. She loses those fights. So now she's in a situation very similar. Not a submission artist, but probably more dangerous because she knows how to get the fight to the ground. Verna Jandiroba, good wrestler. Mackenzie Dern, bad wrestler. But you still have to fear, what if they lock up? What if we end up on the ground like I'm in trouble? Tatiana Suarez is a very good wrestler. That's her whole MO is her ability, how good she is with grounding fights. Now, she hasn't had tremendous success in all her fights, but for the most part, once she starts running downhill, she's running downhill. When she gets top control on you, good fucking luck. Good luck. So that's the game she's going to be playing again in this fight. She's going to have the boxing edge, but now she's going to be a striker that's going to be on her back foot, trying to elude a high pedigree wrestler from securing top position on her, getting top on her, draining the clock, trying to get up in time, trying to, get to a hip, trying to kick her off, and then still have enough time to produce some offense. I think it's an uphill battle for Loopy here. I do. I think it's an uphill. I think this is a buy low spot for Tatiana here. I think this could be a fight where she can have about 60% control time throughout the fight, where she gets her to the ground, she single legs her, gets on top of her, rides her out a little bit, goes for a couple submission attempts maybe that she doesn't get, round ends, comes back out. Loopy has success on the feet, gets taken down again. How many times have we seen that, guys? How many times have we seen, all right, just like third round, it's 1-1. You're like, don't get taken down, and they look great. And then all of a sudden you get taken down. You're like, that's it. The fight's over. That's where it's going to end. That's how I could see this fight going. Like, for people who bet Loopy, like, she's going to look good. And then she's going to go, oh, you look great. Just don't get taken down. And then boom, then she gets taken down. You're like, yeah, that's it. It's over. So good fight though. I'm intrigued by this fight because I do like Loopy Godinez a lot. But I do think this is a bad matchup for her. So give me Tatiana Suarez. I'm going to say Tatiana Suarez, probably 28-9, 28 decision. overall, this is going to be a fun card. We do have Dayton's got to come back in and give us his dog pick of the week. We got to get him back on the board. Dayton, what are you, 3-1 now?
2-1 because one got canceled.
You're 2-1 now. Okay, 2-1 now.
Yeah, the cancellation.
Oh, that's right. 2-1-1 you are. Okay, yeah. So, all right. So, what do you got?
Yeah, I think we talked about it a little bit before the fight. Let me make sure it's mine here. Yeah, here we go. Here we go.
Carlos Ulberg. I like it.
Yeah, I think it's the best number, and he's got the best chances. Plus, I'm not the biggest fan of Prochazka, so yeah, that's my decision right there. Maybe we can go 3-1.
Yeah, I'll tell you guys this. I will talk about one more fight real quick, and then we'll get out of here. A fight that you got to be careful with. I would say from a betting perspective, is the Dominic Reyes and Johnny Walker fight. I think that's a fight you got to be very careful with. I think that's a very DraftKings potential fight, as far as I think both of these guys' chins are kind of dusted at a certain point. But I could see where people can have that rear view mirror image of Dominic Reyes just being mollywopped so many different fucking ways to Sunday, but they forget how bad Johnny Walker's chin actually is. You know what I mean? So, but this is a fight that definitely doesn't go to the card. So from a DraftKings perspective, I do like that. I am leaning Dominic Reyes slightly in that fight, but other fights, they're close, man. I mean, Aaron Pico, another guy who absolutely should win this fight against Pitbull, but it can end like that. That kid's chin has been, I don't know whose chin is worse, him or Johnny Walker. So there's a lot of fights you got to really be mindful with. Do your homework, really do your research, watch film, look at the matchups, check the southpaw matchups and the range and the distance. And, you got to go through everything for this card, because this is a card where a lot of the unknown can happen. So if you want all my stuff, you can go to the madlabmma.com. I have everything broken down from a DraftKings standpoint, from a Fight Brain standpoint, from an audio standpoint. Then we do a live stream. It's just nonstop. Plus, like I said, we do have the fantasy league starting up again this week. Super great turnout we had last time. So I hope you guys will join us, and I will see you for next week's card.